So now I'm with Scott Newell. Hi, Scott. I think you've probably been in the recycling business longer than anybody else here. Would you like to tell us a few things about how it's changed over the last few decades?
Well, that's interesting. In my family, we always joke and say, when you're born into this business, it's like getting a life sentence with no parole. So I started actually working on the scale in my father's scrapyard when I was about 14. I could run a crane by the time I was 16. And then I went away to university, but I started working full time again when I was 20. And that's now 62, 63 years ago now. So I've been in the business a long time. You ask a question about how has it changed? And it's changed a lot, of course. And for us, we were baling scrap when we first started. And then we started shredding tin cans for the leach precipitation process. And so then we started building bigger and bigger shredders. My dad invented the first really practical shredder for automobiles. So that was in 1961. And I was fortunate enough, he taught me how to do that. We built the second one at that time, and then we started selling them to other people, but we also operated them ourselves. And so the scrap business went from a lot of manual things, and like on the first shredders, it took about 1 man-hour per ton to shred. With new modern machines, with computer controls, it takes 1/10 of a man-hour per ton, and even less on some of the really big machines. And so I've been very fortunate to be a part of that journey, and went from the first shredders to now there's like 1,442 in the world, and happily for me, more than half of them have the Newell name on them, or were licensed by Newell. So it's been a nice journey for me.
And not only has techniques changed, but the vehicles themselves have changed.
Yes.
How does that affect your business?
Well, no, that's very interesting. We're talking a lot about that in this meeting here at the IARC, which I'm very happy to be attending. I've watched the ICM, and I've been friends with Jeanette and Roger for about 27 years now, if you can imagine that length of time. But automobile composition has changed a lot. It has a lot more copper in them, a lot more aluminum, but they're getting lighter. But automobiles are roughly about 28 to 30% of what we shred. I mean, post-consumer electronics, washing machines, hot water heaters, all kind of things. Plus then construction materials, fences, barrels, cans, that's a lot. And as shredders have changed, we started shredding heavier material. What used to be number one heavy melting was always cut with a torch. Well, today we shred a lot of, up to 14-inch I-beams, for example, we shred. And fortunately, shredded scrap has gained in its recognition of its value in use in the steel making process. It actually gives lower cost per ton for the finished steel product. So we've been very fortunate with all of that. But we've been watching a lot of changes as we went along. And, I make a lot of speeches in this industry, and very often I'll say, this year we made this, oh wow, this was a big improvement, I don't know what else we can do. Next year, same thing. Wow, we found out a bunch of other things we were doing wrong. So yeah, it's been fun.
And you talked yesterday in one of the conferences about China. What are you doing in China?
Well, we have it's called China Recycling Newell Equipment. And we've sold 60 very large machines in China in the last few years. We have installed capacity of about 50 million tons of shredded scrap per year in our machines, which, although there are 300 or 400 shredders in China, our 60 produce more than 50% of all the shredded scrap that's produced. I'm very proud of that. So.
Mm-hmm. And are the Chinese an easy nation to work with?
I have very good partners in China, and I have a lot of really good Chinese friends. And so I haven't had those kind of problems. Now, we know that intellectual property is not respected so much in China, and I've been involved in a few legal disputes with people who just made copies of things. But overall, it's been it's been very nice. And the people with whom I'm in contact are all lovely, and I enjoy them. And you know, they just like the rest of us. They just want to have a good life for themselves, and they go on.
And is that where you would see growth coming from for the Newell Group today?
Are you talking about growth in terms of volume, number of shredders being sold? I mean, the developing world still has room to go. I mean, let's say we have right now 350 shredders in North America, we have 400 shredders in Europe, we have 400 shredders in China, and then we are scattered around through the rest of the world. Yeah, I would expect to see a greater percentage of the available scrap I would expect to be shredded because of this recognition of the value in use.
Yeah. And so what sort of contacts are you making here at IARC this year?
Well, it's interesting. I've met a lot of friends. I just met a guy from the Netherlands who reminded me that I sold him his first shredder a really long time ago. And I have a lot of friends and acquaintances in the business here, and it's been fun for me. You know, I mean, it's some kind of recognition that I'm probably the oldest guy here, which, you know, they say, oh, you're the legend. I go, maybe because I survived this long, that's all. And I learned a lot of things to not do while I was going along. So I say I learned a lot of things to not do. I learned a few things to do, but a lot of things to not do. So if that makes me an expert, okay, great, I'm happy.
So what next, Scott?
I'm still working very hard on separation and recovering values from things. Right now I'm invested in a very large auto shredder residue, or ASR, recycling plant in America. And it'll be the largest one in the world, I think. We're going to do 100 tons an hour, and we're going to be recovering copper, aluminum, stainless steel, and other steel. But on this piece of property that I have, we have a big area dedicated, and it says plastic recycling on it. And so I'm here investigating some of that. And you ask what kind of things I've been in contact with. Of course, this conference has a lot of information about plastic recycling. And so I've really been absorbing a lot of that because we're going to have a lot, we're going to have a lot of material, and plastic is one of the components where we could add some value if we could get it separated correctly.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you a lot of success in your new ventures, Scott. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be with you guys. You're great. Thanks.